I want to thank you, Heaven on Earthers, for co-creating this transmission with me of Divine Within, where we remember the power within, the kingdom within, and that reality bends from within. And what do humans want? We want peace, we want abundance, we want love, we want to know that everything's okay. Freedom, love, peace, freedom. Most of your manifestations, I can guarantee, are going to fall under love, peace, or freedom. So if you want to get free, you have to identify where you're not free. So your limits then are determined by your dependencies. No one likes to admit where they're dependent, and the reason that you're still stuck, the reason that you're watching this video, the reason that you feel like your manifestations are not moving is because you refuse to admit to yourself, not to me, I don't care one way or the other, but you refuse to admit to yourself where you're dependent. What do I mean by dependent? Where you have outsourced your power, where you are attached. What do I mean by attached? Fixated on the occurrence of a specific outcome. Fixated on the occurrence of a specific outcome, or dependent. So when you hear, in order for your manifestations, in order for the things that you're visualizing, your intentions to materialize, you must be detached. Well, that's not saying don't care. That's saying that if you need it to happen in a specific way, in a specific amount of time, and you need it, meaning it is determining the state of your emotional well-being, meaning that your identity is attached, it is dependent upon the occurrence, the fruition, the manifestation of that thing, then you're saying that the power that you have as the God within, because you're an individualized expression of the all that is, you're saying that is not in you, it's in the representation, because that's all we see outside of ourselves anyway. This is a matrix, this is a hologram, this is a fucking dream. You summon me, that's why I say co-created. You summon me to help you remember that none of that shit out there is real. Now, I don't mean go jump off a building, because nothing's real. There's rules to this 3D reality, to this matrix. Gravity's one of them. What I'm saying is that it's not complete, and that the only power that things have outside of you are the power that you give them, which means you are the original source of power in everything that you see. So when you're dependent on something, and we don't like to admit where we're dependent, we don't like to admit where we're attached, and I'll tell you, the quicker that you can identify what you're attached to and begin to give that to yourself, the quicker, quote unquote, time doesn't exist. It's just points of measurement for our conceptualization, so that we can continue to interact here in this world, because memory is an illusion. That's why you can do past life regressions and hypnosis, because it's all happening now, because it's all one continuous timeline that appears to be separate, but it's not. They're just points along a spectrum through which we measure things. That's what time is. But if you can identify where you're dependent and recognize this is the power that I've assigned to a representative shell, is what I like to call the 3D world that we're interacting with. If you want to fall in love with Tim or with Tina, Tim and Tina don't really exist outside of you. Now, whoever it is that you want to date, if it's Tim, he's going to reflect back at you your attitudes about yourself, what you think that he's thinking about you, what you believe about love, your past experiences with relationships, whether they be conscious or not, that you have processed or not processed. Tim is going to be a representative shell for any variation of all of those things, yourself. And if you're dependent upon Tim to give you love, or you're dependent upon Tina to give you love, meaning I have no love without Tina or Tim, what they're going to show you is a lack of love that you already feel within yourself. So if you identify where you're dependent, you can identify where you're not free and realize you already were free, that the lack of freedom, that the lack of love, that the lack of abundance was all an illusion that you created that has power over you because you have given it power. Now we're conditioned, right? We're conditioned starting at childhood, and our parents end up becoming these gods of separation, right? They tell us how the world works, and they tell us what we can have and what we can't have. And then we just live with that model until we remember and we wake up and we realize that, hell, maybe I created the parents that were going to give me the exact examples of everything that I came here to unlearn. They were going to give me the challenges in life that were going to be most conducive to my soul's ascension path, is what I believe about parents. That's how, I don't know if that video is still up, but I talked about, I think I ended up, I've done some rebranding. So like last year, I made a video about like how I overcame childhood trauma, and I realized I gave myself all of those challenges because that was what I came here to experience. And in having those experiences, they taught me what I needed. I don't like that word need, but they taught me what was going to be most beneficial for me to unbecome by living it so thoroughly that I had only two options: to continue to be a part of it or detach from the occurrence of what I perceived those outcomes to be. A little off task. That's all related though, but identify what your dependencies are. If you're dependent upon Tim or Tina, if you're dependent on your boss giving you a certain amount of praise, if you're dependent upon what the president's doing or not doing, if you're dependent upon, isn't that how we got into this mess, right? Because at least I live in rural Illinois, and I swear, I won't get into this, but I swear, and I think they're all reptilian clowns. I think it's all theater. I don't really care one way or the other, but I was aware that I guess the first term that this president won or was elected, I don't know, time blends together. But anyway, what people were most concerned about is they wanted cheaper gas and cheaper eggs. Like I literally remember there was one point in time where like people were complaining that like eggs were $3 or $4 or something like that. And I'm not saying food scarcity is not a real problem for many Americans, many people in the world, but it's just... it's just like when we're driven from those base needs and we feel separated from those base needs, we end up, for instance, placing power into a reptilian man that now those same people that voted for the cheap eggs and cheap gas, they're not waving their flags so proudly. But I don't know. That was all in good jest. I don't care one way or the other. But what I'm saying is your power, if you give it away to somebody that you think is in power, they're only in power. That was my point, regardless of who you vote for. I don't care who you vote for. That's not what this is about. You give that power away, and you're gonna feel you're gonna feel that devoid within yourself. You're going to feel that there's something missing within me, and then we're gonna chase and then we're gonna cling, and we think it's about all of these representative shells, but the representative shells only hold the power that we've charged them with. Is the cleanest message here of tonight. So you have to identify where you're not free. You have to be honest with yourself about your dependencies. You have to understand attachment is a fixation on a specific outcome, and you give yourself back the energy that you believe is only going to occur if you experience it by way of some type of 3D event. You have to realize that I'm not going to be maybe more liked and validated once I get the cool car. Like and validate yourself now. And that's not a one-time thing. That's not a one-time thought. It's an entire shift in being. It is a decision. Who would you be if you were already liked? Who would you be if you walked into a room and you knew everybody already loved you? And that then doesn't mean that you're attached to the outcome of everybody actually liking you. It means that if they do or if they don't, this is the being that I decide for myself. So whatever happens out there, that's what detachment is. Whatever happens out there is not going to change what I identify myself to be, because that's what I decide, because I am an individualized expression of the all that is. Read the Heaven on Earth Source Codex that is available to you for free. It provides a language and structure for everything you already know and what you came here to embody. It's not about the steps, but if you are someone who likes to see the steps, then that is outlined there for you, how to live your heaven on earth. And there are other resources that will be available to you in the show notes, such as the podcast, the written word, the Liberation Chronicle, and opportunities to get to work with me one-on-one. I thank you for co-creating this transmission with me, and until next time, be good to yourselves and others, because everyone's just a version of you anyway.